So today we go to the part cells reaction to the injury. So we still say we're talking about illness. Pathology is talking about illness. So when people getting illness, the injured part, the cells first. We still say cells is smallest living unit inside the body. So anything happens in the cells first. So cells get something injured, it will cause the illness. Then we see what's the cell's reaction to the injury. We say pathology. We're talking about from few aspects. First aspect, what caused the illness, etiology. So when we're talking about the cells injury, we're still talking about the first aspect, cause. So basically this part pretty similar like we talking about before. We say we have chemical reason, we have infection reason, we have immunity reactions, we have genetic reason, we have nutrition reason, we have physical reason. So basically this part pretty similar. We're talking about general illness, the cause. But for the cells level, we know cells is pretty smaller. And the maintenance the cell's functions, we need oxygen. Oxygen deficiency or totally losing oxygen. So certainly, if for the human being, for the whole body, if we totally no oxygen, people will be directly die. But for the cells, some cells, they losing oxygen or oxygen deficiency. They cause sick first, and certainly long term, they still cause the cell death. So that's another important reason for cells. And another one, aging. The cells have their living time. When people getting aging, when cells have some injury, or maybe just the cells getting older, the whole body will getting sick. So that's another reason here. So this part we can go a little bit faster because lot of is pretty similar like we talking about the illness. The first one we talking about oxygen disorder, oxygen deficiency. Hyperplasia, that's the word. Hyper, we know that usually we're talking about lower. Hyperplasia means oxygen deficiency. So that means pretty affected our cells function. So each of the cells inside the body need oxygen for living. like our body need a lot of oxygen for living. So when oxygen deficiency will affect the cell's function, thus truly can feel the cells injury. And a severe case will cause the cells die. So oxygen deficiency maybe have different reasons, but mostly for local oxygen deficiency, usually caused by blood supply blocking. We're talking about like some artery sending blood go to tissues, capillaries, and in the capillaries, they sending oxygen to the cells. For some reason, like something blocking inside blood vessels here, certainly oxygen will not able to come in. Blood not able to come in. So this part of the cell will no oxygen, no blood, then cells will be injured and will be dead. So that's basically my reasons. And also possible, whole bodies oxygen levels is decreased, not enough oxygen. So for example, like people have lung issues, or maybe have heart issues. So that's the main reason people don't have enough oxygen. We know the oxygen we take from outside of the air through the lungs functions. So when lung, for example, have pneumonia there, usually we use the whole lung for respiration. Now, big part of the lung have pneumonia. They will losing function to take oxygen in. So that's the one reason people don't have enough oxygen, because lung issue. And another reason is the heart. So heart, will sending the blood to all over the bodies, to the tissues. So when heart have disorder, like heart failure, the sending blood function will be decreased. So that's another reason, like a tissue will not enough oxygen. And also some special reasons for the toxin. So carbon, usually we say our tissues producing carbon dioxide. That's the form. Is not toxin. But if only oxygen combination together, that's usually coming from like something not burning totally, it will become. So this kind of material, for some reasons, they got too high level, then people like inhale. So they can combination with human being. We know human being mainly function is carry oxygen. When they like a combination with human beings, then human beings will not able to carry oxygen. So that's also cause the local cells oxygen deficiency. So like we have some reasons can cause local oxygen deficiency. Then we talking about chemical agents. Yeah, chemical agents. So chemical agents pretty similar. Yeah, pretty similar like we talking about cause the illness. But for the cells level, mainly they will changing the memory structures and damage the cells. It also working for some enzymes inside the cell. So then they cause the cells losing function or maybe cells die. So some chemicals like air pollution, and also some other chemicals. We have a lot of other chemicals can directly damage the cells, especially like locally. So stronger acid like go to the skin, even directly damage the cells. So lot of chemicals will damage the cells. Effect reason. Effect reason, we talking about the pathogens. We talking about the virus and the bacteria and maybe fungi. We have a lot of pathogens. So that pathogens directly invading the cell and damage the cell function. So like we especially talking about the virus. Virus is the smallest pathogen. They don't have their own cell structure. They only have DNA or RNA. So when they need a copy, they need to go into the body cells and use the body cell structures and make a copy itself. So certainly when they use the body cells like material and structure in there, it truly damage body cells or even kill the body cells. And even bacteria, they still can go to the cells and get like a toxin, release some toxin to the cells and make the cells sick or even die. Immunity reactions. Pretty similar like we talked about, generally cause the illness. So that maybe can cause the autoimmunity reaction directly against the cells. Cause the cells sick or ill. And allergy reactions. Still kind of cells reactions and some deficiency, certainly. A genetic reason is genes disorder. That means, especially some people, they have deficiency function, some proteins, some enzymes. So that's basically affected the cell's metabolism and affect the cells like because they have genes disorder, they producing some wrong structure of the protein or maybe enzymes. So that's truly affected the cells and making cells getting sick or losing function. Then for the cells level, we still have nutrition deficiency. So nutrition deficiency means the cells don't have enough nutrition. That will cause cell injury. Because our cells will always producing some protein and form some structures. So if they don't have enough nutrition, certainly they couldn't build up the structure of the cells. And even obesity. So that's because cells, body getting weak, but the cells getting bigger also. But they getting bigger, they losing some functions. So that's still cause the problems of the cells. Physical reason directly injure the cells. Physical reason directly injure the cells, including trauma, including temperature changing, including radiation, and some other reasons. So when people getting age, whole body functions will be like decreased, their normal function. So normal cells, they have function, recover itself. But when people getting aging, that kind of recover function will be decreased. So that's why like aging people easily getting sick or illness. From their cells level, their cells getting weak first, and they repaired or recover functions getting weaker. So that's we're talking about the reason cause the cells getting injured. Cells sick, we use the word injured. Basically, the same idea like people getting sick. But for cells, we use the word injured. So that's the reason. Cells injure. Pretty similar like the reason we're talking about illness. Cause the illness. Certainly, when people get illness, cells injury happen first. So basically, we have all the reason for Last time we talked about cause the people illness, and in the cells level, we also specially talking about oxygen deficiency and aging. Oxygen deficiency directly injure the cells. Aging, cells recovered function is slow, still cause the cells injury. Then we talking about after cells injury. That's lot of reasons here. But whatever reasons cause cells injury, like after, what will be happen? So after cells injury, a lot of reasons there. After cells injury, then the cells will getting some changing. What possible changing will be there? So the cells will be adapted to the situation. Whatever injury for the cells, cells will be adapted. And cells may be getting some reversible kind of changing. And the cells possible get some irreversible kind of changing. Or maybe that. So that's basically we're talking about after cells injury. They have some possible. The cell's shape will be changing. The cell's function will be changing. So after cells injury, go to which level? Here is totally depending, like how severe of the cells injury, what kind of type of the cells injury, and how long time the cells injury, and injure what type of the cells. So that will be different. But these three possible here is not necessary. Must we go to first type, then go to second type, then go to third type. It's not truly connected. Some severe injury possible directly cause the cells die. Some kind of injury, the cells will adapt to it. Some types of injury may be cause the reversible kind of injury. Some type of injury may be cause the irreversible kind of injury. So that's not the order here. It's not the order here. Then we go to the first type. The first type, we call it cell after injury will be adapted to it. Adapted to it, we have 4 different types after cells injury. Why is the cells getting bigger? Why is cells getting bigger? We call hypertrophy. This side is the normal cell. Normal bigger and normal size. That's the first type. Hypertrophy. So hypertrophy means cells getting bigger. But the number keep the same. The second one we call hyperplasia. Hyperplasia is here. The cells number getting more number, but the size keep the same. That's hyperplasia. That's the second one. The third one, atrophy. Atrophy means cells shrinking. So this side is the normal cell. This side is the sick cell. So just the opposite for the first one. First one, cell getting bigger. This one, cells getting smaller. So that's the third type. And then fourth type, metaplasia. Metaplasia means they use the other cells instead of original cells. So that's D here. You can see the cells in the here. That's the normal cell and the structure here. Then they change to different kind of cells, like this. And truly they losing originally function, the cells, because the different cells. So that's metaplasia. So that's generally say, after cell injury, we have 4 different types of adapted to it. So let's still go to a read. Then we go to detail for each of them. Hypertrophy. Hypertrophy. Thus we say increase the size of the cells. So that's truly increase some cells function in there, like increase producing the protein and increase some thing inside the cells. So that's we talking about increase the cells here. Like originally like this bigger, now go to more bigger. So if a lot of cells together, so that's truly increase the organs, because the organs is formed by the cells. So like the picture here is the normal heart. Especially looking the muscles here, how think of the muscles here. And then you compare this heart, hypertrophy heart. Look like the whole organ size is not totally changing, but you can see the muscles more thicker here. Certainly, the heart will have 4 chambers. When muscles go to a finger here, they will occupy the chambers. So means heart will loading less blood than before. So compare before, it's much smaller here. So we're talking about increase the size of the organs depending which organ. A solid organ, you can see maybe it's getting bigger, like the liver, smaller getting bigger. But for heart, they have two possible. One possible, the heart getting bigger. Another possible, their muscles getting thick. Still, because the cell size increase. So that's hypertrophy. So we are still not the same one. Yeah, we are in the same one. So we go to second one. We're talking about hyperplasia. We say hyperplasia is increased cells numbers. It's not truly increased cells. Increased cells numbers. So that's some example here. So still increase the size of the organs. So that's example here. Like the normal memory of the uterus. Pretty thinner. Then they got more number and more cells and cells. More cells and cells here. So they still go to bigger. So that's we talking about. So this kind of situation, we say possible happens in physiology reasons, and possible happens in pathology reasons. So increase the cells number. Physiology reason example, like during the pregnancy, the breast tissue got more cells in there. So that's the second pattern. Then we go to the third pattern. Atrophy. So atrophy means the size of the cells decrease. Then they will decrease the organs. Size of the organs will be decreased. So that's basically happens inside the cells, like they're losing part of the structure in there. Then the cells will be shrinking. So atrophy can cause by some special reasons. Still pretty similar, like we talking about the cells injury, the reasons. Sometimes atrophy may happen like we are not use that kind of cells anymore. They're no use. So they will be shrinking. And sometimes they may happen like poor nutrition. Not enough nutrition to support for the cells. Then cells shrinking. And some reasons, endocrine system disorder. When we talking about decreased endocrine system stimulations, so basically we know inside the body we have two control systems. One is endocrine system control. One is nervous system. Means maintenance the cells or tissue or organs functions. We need under control. endocrine systems like some hormones, and under the control from the nervous systems, maintain their normal function. If losing any of them, or maybe both of them, they will losing normal functions. So thus we say, if endocrine systems disorder usually still belong to decreased control, the cells will be shrinking. And even when losing nervous systems control there, the cells will be shrinking. For example, if some people injure the nerves on the arm area, that's for example is the hand here. So the nervous branch coming from the arm area then go to the fingers. So especially like people if injure in here, certainly they will losing blood supply go to locally, will losing nervous supply go to locally. But sometimes the blood supply, they can go to like other part of the hand. They have some blood vessels connected to each other. But nerve branch, they just go to special area. So one nerve branch just go to special area. So long term later, like the muscles of the thumb here will be shrinking. So that means losing nervous supply go to local area. So that's another reason the cells atrophy. And the people getting aged, thus the cells still possible atrophy. So the picture example here is our brain. So this side is our normal brain. This side is the shrink or atrophy kind of brain. You can see the whole size is smaller. The whole size is smaller. So that's pretty possible coming from different reasons and pretty possible coming from the aging. So that's the third changing, atrophy. Then we're talking about metaplasia. Metaplasia is, we say, they use other different kind of cells or tissue instead of it originally tissues. So this means basically they will losing originally its functions. Generally speaking, we have two different kinds of metaplasia. The first one we call squamous kind of metaplasia. The second one is use the bones instead of original tissues. So these two we can go to some detail to see. The first one, we use a special kind of epithelial cells. We say epithelial cells basically cover superficial the body and also cover internally the tubes. They don't have special kind of, they just mainly protection function, but don't have other special functions. And the epithelial tissue, they have different shape. So that's just a special kind of shape in here. But generally, you can see the picture here. That's the original layer of tissue, normal tissue and the cells in here, in this side. I would like to say from here to here is normal. And then for some reason, like after injury or after chronic infections, then the cells will be changing. Then the cells will be changing. You can see more and more epithelial cells coming. And finally, they totally inside the original cells. So that's Hyperplasia. Yeah. Just use another kind of cells inside of original cells. So that's pretty similar here. But lower part is under microscope. Yeah, what you look like. Above part is the model. Is picture, but make it more clear. You are easily to see it. So that's pretty possible happens by people smoking for a long term. Their cells will be changing. So that certainly reduce some functions. So that's the first kind of changing. And the second changing metaplasia. That basically happens in the bones. So that one happens. Basically, it's good for humans. So after like the bone injuries, you can see this side fractures here. The bone dislocated, and not disconnection. So some soft tissue here. And later on, inside, with soft tissue is some bone cells coming. It's got connection here. So that's basically it's the second metaplasia. So metaplasia could be good, could be bad for the humans. But whatever, that's the some way like the tissue or cells, the healing. Yeah, even the first one, that's still kind of healing there. Even they losing some function, but still kind of healing there, because their original cell is losing function and died. So that's in this part. After cells injury, we're talking about we have 3 possible reactions. The first one, cell will be adapted to the situation. So thus we have 4 different kinds. Hypertrophy, hyperplasia, atrophy, and another one we're talking about metaplasia. So that's the first part. Yeah, we finished. Yeah, after cell injury. So we just finished the first kind of changing for the cells. The cells adapted. Then we're talking about the cells injury, another kind of changing. So another cells changing maybe it's a reversible kind of changing. So let's see what kind of changing will be in there. So generally speaking, reversible kind of cells changing, including two different kind of changing. One kind of changing we say fatty changing. Another kind of changing is the pigment. Pigments accumulation in the maybe local area, maybe some part of the body. Let's talk about the fatty changing first. So fatty changings truly is some fatty accumulations in the cells. So that's the chemical of the body. So that's truly like with more fatty in there, it's truly affected of normally the cell's function. So we can see the picture here. This side is the normal or healthy liver. Another side is the fatty liver. We can compare these two livers here. The first difference is the color. First difference is color. This one is more red color because the liver is the more blood supply will go to liver. Maybe let it be darker red. This side, the color, you can see the yellow. So fat tissue is generally say is little bit yellow, more white side, little bit yellow. It's not like an orange kind of yellow. It's little bit yellow, So that's because so much fatty tissue inside that it changing the color. And another difference is the size. Size changing. This is the normal size of the liver. This side, you can see the liver getting bigger because so many fatties inside the liver. So here is we take a small pieces of the liver and go under the microscope. Red is the artery, blue color is the vein, and certainly we have a lot of space between the blood vessels. That's the liver cells in there, normal liver cells. This side we still can see the artery and the vein, But in the cells location, we have lot of little yellow color there, means the fat. So that's happens in the liver. Fatty liver is pretty commonly happens, but fatty changing still possible happens in other tissues, but fatty liver is more common. It possible happens also in the heart, also in the kidney and other organs. So what caused fatty liver? So basically we say liver is the biggest chemical factory inside the body. It is a detoxing kind of organ. So any kind of chemicals will go to the liver, detoxes. So that's including alcohol. If people drinking alcohol so long term, it truly damages liver cells and getting some changing for fatty liver. And also people with diabetes or overweight. So that's diabetes is the sugar's metabolism have some disorder. We say we have three big nutrients: fat, protein, sugar. They will change each other. When any of them have disorder, other will have disorder. So more fatty accumulated in the liver. And the obesity, that's truly like people eating too much and some fatty like accumulated in the liver. They also accumulated in other parts but the liver. And poor nutrition. We say more nutrition go to liver. Poor nutrition still got this kind of changing because people don't have enough nutrition to eat. The liver try to produce it more. They're working so hard. Then they damage their function. And the poison pretty similar like alcohol. They go to liver to relieve toxins and make liver overworking. So that's fatty changing. So we say fatty changing belong to reversible kind of changing. So truly, if we get some treatment and even some people with some exercises, like they eating less, they do some exercises, they truly can like recover and go back to normal liver. So that's pretty possible. So that's basically the fatty changing. That's basically something happens like decreased yields and overproducing the fatties and decreased secretion of fat from the cells. So that's basically etiology can cause that kind of fatty accumulations. Talking about the fatty changing and the reversible, I will tell you a story. It happens a few years ago in United States. There is a boy. Yeah, there's a boy. He have kidney disorder. Need a kidney transplant. And his mom matching the type with her son. The mom decided to transplant the kidney to the son. But when mom go to examinations like before transplant, make sure the mom's body is healthy, then she can transplant the kidney to her son. But when examinations find, like we have different ways to find the fatty liver, like ultrasound, like some blood test, like a CT scan, MRI. So we have a lot of ways to finding if they have fatty. So basically the mom needed the whole body examination. Then find the mom have fatty liver. So in this kind of case, truly it's not suitable transplant the kidney from mom to the son. The mom try to transplant the kidney to the son, then the mom, so basically it's raining. 10 kilometer, sorry. Like every day. Occasionally twice a day. More basically once a day. And reading about 6 months. Not especially for the treatment, not especially for treatment, just the exercise, reading. And after 6 months, go to exam. Then find the fatty liver disappeared. The liver recovered to normal liver. Then the mom transplanted the kidney to the son. So that's just give us a case. We're talking about the fatty kind of changing, reversible. That belong to reversible kind of changing. Then we're talking about the accumulation of the pigments. So pigments is some special kind of color show up by some reasons. So basically, inside our body, we have 4 different kinds of pigments. So these 4 kinds of pigments, some of them, let be commonly we can see. Some of them maybe we are not that easily to see. Melanin. So that's kind of blue, black color kind of pigments. That's usually in the skin. So that one, pretty commonly, some people in the locally have some pigments there. So these pigments, basically, they may cause 2 different kinds of disorder. Thus, normally, it will be inside our skin, or thus give our skin color. But we say if we go to Shanghai, we can go to more pigments, like all over the body. That's if not over, it's normal. But if over, it will cause the problem. Or they may go to locally, small pigments in there. Another kind of disorder is deficiency disorder. Some people will be losing some pigments in some part of the skin, like this picture here, part of the hand, they losing pigment. And for this girl, like all over body, losing pigments. So that's for these pigments. So these kind of pigments, whatever deficiency or excessive, it's possible recover. It's not naturally recover, like we talking about fatty liver. It's naturally recover, not like naturally. We must be do something. We must be do something. It's possible. It's possible recover. Then we can talking about another one. Another yellow kind of pigment. So yellow kind of pigments, possible go to all of the skin, possible go to the eyes, like this patient, the eyes here, and all over the skin. So that's usually we call it jaundice. We call it jaundice. So this kind of color originally, like we talking about is the pale color. So that's coming from the liver. That's coming from like some blocking, like a gallbladder. And they coming from the bile, but originally coming from hemoglobin. Hemoglobin metabolism happens in the liver. So that's basically we say the blood circulation to the liver. We say red blood cell living time 120 days normally. After 120 days, will be broken in the liver, and some reused part reabsorptions to the blood circulation to use, and the no used part relieved from the bile. And then go to small intestine. Then relieved from the stool. So that's normally we can see some stool colors, yellow kind of color, where they come from originally. So basically we're talking about if some sick or illness, we blocking the tube coming from the liver or gallbladder to the small intestine. Certainly the bile will not go to small intestine, so their stool will be white color. No color. Then where the pigments go? Pigments go back to the blood circulation, and the blood circulation to all over the body. So make the skin yellow. Make the skin yellow. Certainly also it will be go to the eyes. So that's why some people's eyes yellow also. So we say that's possible something blocking the tube of the gallbladder to the like small intestine. And also possible happens in the liver. When liver injured, They produce in the bile not reliefs to the gallbladder. They directly, part of them directly go to blood circulation. Still same idea, follow the blood circulation. They go to skin, go to the eyes. And another reason, abnormally blood cells broken. It's over broken for some reason. Then more pigments relieve. That still go to blood circulation, go to the eyes, but because they are not truly blocking here, their stool color still in there. It's not white color. So that's clinically when people get jaundice, we may have different reasons. So we need to see what kind of reason. And then what's caused. So truly these kind of pigment changing, if we curate originally illness, the jaundice will be disappeared. So these jaundice, generally is all over. Yeah, it's not like a local pigment. It's all over some pigments accumulation. So that's another kind of pigment changing. So there's some reason here we talk about already. And one reason is too much red blood cells is broken for some reasons. Yeah. And at the same time cause the anemia. And we talking about the second reason possible, blocking the bile duct. And then another reason, liver disorder. So that's the three reasons here for this kind of pigment. The third one is not that common. Basically, it's a relationship with the iris kind of pigments in there. They still go to the tissues. Little bit dark colors go to the skin. So that's basically the disorder of the iris metabolism. It's not that common. And the last one is so common. So that's basically like people getting aging. You always can see these kind of pigments. So that's basically more relationship. Certainly some internal organs, like some weaker, and deficiency basically is cells weak, or maybe cells older. So you can see some little bit brown, yellow kind of color in some part of the body, and pretty common for some aging people. So certainly, these kind so certainly for these kind of the pigment changing, we talked about it is a reversible kind of pigment changing, but still need to see what's the reason cause. We couldn't, like people getting aging, we are not able to bring the people go back to young. So that's still pretty hard to bring it back. But if some people, by some other reasons, cause these kind of pigments, it is possible like recover. I think sometimes like people get pregnancy under their face will got some pigments, and after delivery, some of them, yeah, still not all of the people, some of them maybe naturally recover. So that's about the pigment changing. So that's the second one. So that's we say after cells injury. Yeah, after cells injury. 3 possible changes. The first one we call cell adaptation. Yeah, cells adaptation. We have 4 different kind of changes there. Maybe cells getting bigger. Maybe cells getting more number. Maybe cells getting shrunken. Maybe cells use other cells inside. And the second changing is reversible kind of changing. Reversible kind of changing we have 2 different kinds. The first one is fatty changing, yeah, more fatty tissues. The second one is pigment changing. Fatty changing usually happens in the organs. It's possible changing back. Pigment changing usually happens in the skin. We have 4 in there. So maybe more darker yellow, darker color, second yellow color, then let it be brown dark color on the skin, and then last one we're talking about still in the skin. Let it be darker yellow color. So that's the 4 changes. Then we move into irreversible kind of changing, or maybe that, yeah. So irreversible kind of changing finally will be lending cell size. So then we go to cell size. Yeah, irreversible means cells getting severe kind of changing, and then cell dies. Cell dies, yeah, clinical dies. We say we have 2 types. Cell dies we still have 2 types. One type we call necrosis. Another type we call apoptosis. So then we see the first type here. Yeah, first type here. Necrosis. Yeah, first type. So that's the picture on the skin. At the center part, you can see the dark color in there, brown color in there. That's the died cell in there. Sometimes it's some fluid locally, and then they will getting dry and dry and dry, and finally the cells will be died. So that's we're talking about necrosis. Yeah, necrosis. So necrosis, we have different types. Yeah, cells dies. They have different types. It's including which kind of tissues in there. So type of the necrosis. Yeah. Necrosis is the cells and the tissue dies. Yeah. Necrosis is type of the cells of the tissue dies. But they are in different organs. They may form different types. So basically we have 5 different types of the necrosis. So the first one, it can happen, in some tissues. It usually happens because blood supply is suddenly stopped. So in these kind of situations, those cells, they need oxygen and for the nutrition. If blood supply suddenly stopped, so that's basically locally the cells will be dead. So that's for like this picture, that's part of the kidney. So blood supply coming from this part, and then they will bunch it. So if they blocking in here, certainly the other area will losing blood supply. So that's the shape formed. So it could be happens in the kidney. It could be happens like in the heart. So they can happen in other organs also. So after no blood supply, like the nucleus will be broken, cells will be shrinking and then broken, and then the liquid will go to local area. So that's the first one we're talking about. And the second type is more liquid kind of shape in there. So that especially happens in some tissue, like they originally is more fat tissue in there, especially in the brain. It looks like more softer and more liquid, that kind of tissue. So like something injured or brain, CNS, then some inflammation happen in there and some pulse in there. So like this area look like the pulse in there. So that's the second type necrosis. Then we have third type necrosis. It's more fat. So this kind of necrosis, like attacking some tissue, truly contain more fat, like our pancreas, or maybe breast tissue. So that this kind of changing is more liquidly and more softer So because the pancreas we have a lot of digestion enzymes, it can digest local tissue there and form this kind of shape. And another kind of shape, pretty similar, look like a chick. So softer there, and the white color in there. And inside, no cells, no tissues. That can happen in the lung. Lung get a special kind of bacterial infection and then cause the cells and tissue dies. They truly can form this kind of necrosis. Another one, necrosis, we call it gangrene. So this one basically pretty easily happens in the terminal area, like the feet, long terminals. It can be the recent combination, like bacterial infections, and then cause the cells or tissue dies. So basically, by the locally is more dryness or more white. We can separate with two types. Yeah, we can separate two types. One is white, white gangrene. One is dry. We call dry gangrene. But whatever, it is the cells and the tissue dies. So you can see pretty black color in here. So truly the cells and the tissues die. So remember, all of 5 here belong to cells dies. It is irreversible kind of change. Yeah, we are talking about from the beginning. We say after cells injure, cells possible have 3 different kind of changing. 3 kind of different changing. The first one, adapt still can reversible and also can people. It's not a severe changing. People can live in that condition for pretty long term. Second one is a reversible kind of changing. Still possible changing back. And the third one, irreversible. That means cells dies. So now we're talking about the cells dies part. That's the irreversible kind of changing. So we're talking about 3 different kinds of cells dies here. 5 different kinds. 5 different kinds of cells dies here. All of them belong to irreversible. Yeah, that cells dies. Just because they happen in different organs, their shape a little bit different. Different part of body, different internal organs, they different kind of the necrosis, but all of them belong to cell types. So that's generally we use the words necrosis, whatever, different kind is belong to cell types. Then we go to another one. Apoptosis. So that's the situation we're talking about the single cell size. Single cell size. Some question? So this one, just a single cell dice. Single cell dice it causes the cells shrink, or maybe cause the cells changing the shape, and then finally the cells will be broken. So you can see here, that's normal cells, and then they like shrink or changing the shape first, and then they gradually broken to small pieces. So that's what we're talking about for single cell dice. Single cell dice. So single cell dice compared with necrosis is more mild. It's basically local, and also it could be like a physical, like we talk about normal body function, some prosthesis in there for remove some cells from locally. For example, for menstruation. Menstruations and some cells dies and reduce, and then new cells will be coming. So that's still the same idea, like how single cells dies, the process.